Ahoy everyone, Tightrope here, and today we're taking a look at the balance changes for Brits and DAK, as well as a few of the most important bug fixes made in patch 2.5. The first change we're looking at for the Brits is in the training center. Infantry training now gives 200 less experience. So if we're looking at a section, used to give them close to Vet 1 immediately, now it's not quite, about 2/3 of a level, and Sappers used to go over Vet 1, now not quite Vet 1. So that does change some things, you know, maybe you're not going to get your Vet 1 bonus as early if you're like retraining a section, or Sapper's not going to get the grenade immediately. And maybe for some of the like other elite units that have higher vet requirements, it's going to take them quite a lot longer to vet up. I think for like specified in the notes that maybe units were hitting Vet 2 too early off the back of this, getting those big accuracy and rate of fire buffs. That was kind of giving a big power spike to Brits. And it did feel to me like it was, you know, if you got a section, got this upgrade with a Bren specifically, then the Tommies would really beam down squads. And I imagine it's going to get even more profound after the focus fire changes. Felt more than like a 10% accuracy buff to me. But, you know, we can't look up the numbers for these things. Maybe it's just a conspiracy theory for me. But, yeah, felt nasty. And I guess Relic trying to tone it down a bit. Team weapon training's cost has been nerfed by 50 manpower and 5 fuel. Sure. Light vehicle training has also been nerfed in this patch. The ability recharge bonus has been reduced by 10%, trying to make the Bishop's cooldown on its barrage a bit slower. That's the main aim. But I've got a bit of a bone to pick with this, because it was probably a couple of years ago where light vehicle training changed from being, I think it was acceleration and accuracy, to rate of fire and ability recharge. And obviously when it was acceleration and accuracy, that didn't help the Bishop even slightly, because it doesn't, you know, nobody really needed acceleration after those acceleration changes that happened quite a few patches ago, and accuracy didn't affect it at all because it works off scatter, not accuracy. So yeah, it was useless. But going back the other way, now with these bonuses, rate of fire and ability recharge, it largely doesn't affect the Polston. Like the rate of fire bonus barely impacts this. Like maybe gives it like a 3% DPS buff on the Polston. I imagine it's probably kind of bad for the LRDG as well. And ability recharge, like who else needs ability recharge? Like maybe the command steward can be a little bit helpful. Maybe the cooldown on the Humber. I don't know. I've never needed to use this twice in a row. LRDG's got nothing, so maybe it would be nice if these abilities or this bonus or something in this could be changed to be more useful on some of the other light vehicles. Because yeah, when they implemented this, this has basically been a situation where you only get it now, since that change, if you're building bishops or if you're spamming stewards. And it would be nice if there was something to do for the other light vehicles, because at this cost, at the bonuses it gives to everything else, just nowhere near worthwhile. Sappers have come down in cost by 10 manpower, and they are now 2 manpower cheaper to reinforce, which is a pretty big deal. It did feel like they bled quite a lot. And I imagine maybe some of the other changes in this patch are going to make it harder for them to close the gap on enemies without dropping models, so maybe Relic trying to get ahead of that change. The Stuart has had the accuracy on its main gun increased at all ranges. And I've got mixed feelings about this, because certainly it was quite frustrating seeing how often the Stuart missed in the past, but it feels like we're constantly like teetering on the edge of Stuart spam just being too strong. And maybe after the vehicle blobbing changes that they make eventually in 3.0, that might not be such a problem. But for right now, you know, I've cast quite a few big team game modes where players spam like 6 or 7 of these, and, you know, mixing, like they're auto-repairing themselves, maybe mixing in one commander, taking out heavy tanks and stuff. Very good cost efficiency. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. Footguards have had the SMG buffed. They've had an accuracy increase at close and mid-range, and the mid-range has been extended out a bit. Used to be the switch over at 15, as you can see there in the switch in the curve, but now it's gone out to 17.5, so a bit further out. So just, yeah, pretty big DPS increase basically across the board for foot guards on their submachine guns. Definitely a bit of an awkward unit because of their weapon preference for holding bazookas, because yeah, when they're at full strength, they were very strong in anti-infantry, but they do fall off in DPS very quickly as they start to become more bazooka dominant. So it does make them maybe quite strong if they're not the ones getting shot at. Maybe if they're getting into your retreat path, they will absolutely shred, especially when combined up with their grenade. But if they're having to charge in, dropping models on the way in, they are not going to be quite so effective. So yeah, just a bit of an awkward unit. Grant Side Tech Unlock has been reduced by 20 fuel after they have received that steep nerf to their anti-infantry performance in the previous patch, but I don't think this is enough to make me want to build Grants again. On to the battle group changes, and we're looking at special service here, Operation Thunderclap. The plane for this comes through 2 seconds faster. Let's see how that feels. Still doesn't feel like super fast if I'm honest. But yeah, 2 seconds faster, I guess. The 2-pounder upgrade on the LRDG has been halved in munitions cost, coming down to 30. I didn't see many of these, if I'm going to be honest, in my games, but then I didn't see very much of this battle group in the second half of the patch either. For SSB Commandos, there was a bit of a trick where you could hit evasion and then hit retreat, and then after 6 seconds they would vanish. So you kind of get the defensive bonuses of retreating, and then you'd also vanish back to base. So it made it quite hard to actually kill SSBs in a lot of circumstances, and I don't think that's how Relic intended evasion to be used. So they have removed that. Directed air support has been buffed. Basically, the planes should come through a bit faster now. So let's see how that feels.
Commander, territory is beat. RAF fighters await clear targets, Commander. Fuck me! He's got in there. Jerry's picking us apart.
Still feels like quite a long time before the first one comes through, but then obviously if there are multiple targets in the zone that look pretty strong, and because it does suppression, I imagine it's probably going to be quite a lot better this patch, because you should be able to keep units suppressed too. But yeah, I feel like a lot of this battle group's late game potential rides on this ability being good, because you know, this battle group was generally pretty strong in the first like 15 minutes, because you could do a lot of like tricky plays with SSBs, the LRDG, and running around being annoying with all this stuff. But then after the 15-minute mark, didn't really have much of a late game. You know, doing damage to resource points and stuff kind of fell off in terms of utility, because maybe players didn't need resources much. Maybe they needed the VPs a bit more, and maybe killing resource points didn't really matter that much against DAK because they have so many units that can repair them back up. So, you know, this could be the late game anchor for this battle group, but it just wasn't cutting the mustard in the previous patch. Hard to say whether it's going to be strong enough, because, you know, you do have to use it on a squad. It's pretty close range, like doesn't have a big circle of activation, and the squad can get focused and killed pretty quickly, depending on the circumstances. So we'll have to see how it goes. For the Canadian shot section, their 2-inch mortar barrage should now cause a grenade warning to the enemy. So let's see how that sounds. This ability should be quite a lot better this patch, because it does have a 4 model damage cap. Yeah, oh, that's a pretty early grenade warning, huh? Like as soon as they sit down to do it, it happens. But yeah, I was going to say, it should be quite a lot better this patch, because it does have a 4 model damage cap. So in the past, you know, the weapon would have been absorbing one of those hits most of the time. So it should be a bit more lethal this patch. And it was kind of a little bit strange in the past, because quite often when I'd hear a mortar sound, like, okay, well, there's a mortar shooting somewhere. It's going to land in about 3.5 seconds. I need to prepare to dodge. And then it'll be on my machine gun and it'll already be dead before I knows what's happening. So, yeah, I don't know about that change though. So I'm going to try to do a few grenade cancels here. See if this can continuously trigger grenade warnings and stuff and just be annoying to the enemy. We'll see how it plays on the replay, see what happens. So here we are on the receiving end of this. Let's see or hear what you can do. So they shouted out early. Grenade warning does come up on the alerts as well, quite early. So it looks like you have to hold on to... You can't just like do it and cancel it immediately to trigger the grenade alert. You have to like let them sit down for a second. You don't have to let it go off. You still probably got about a second before it goes off and you can cancel it then. But yeah, you're going to be able to do some nasty grenade cancels. Could be maybe with, I don't know if they're possible to do this, but like delaying the grenade warning slightly till it's maybe just about to be launched, like the second it gets launched, or maybe when it's even mid-air before it triggers the warning. I don't know if that's possible. Polish cavalry has received a handful of small nerfs in this patch because it was generally considered to be the best British battle group in the previous patch, as we can see here. It's got a nice win rate, as well as being the most selected battle group for Brits, which is kind of uncommon for DLC battle groups to be this high up, unless people think they are OP. The land mattress has come up in fuel cost by 10. It's proven to just be quite a solid unit all round, and you can get it quite early without having to tech, so I think that's what they're trying to do, increase the price to offset the fact you don't need to tech to get it. Recon Mission has gone up in cost by 15 munitions, so it's not quite so spammable anymore. And the plane's health has been halved now, so it should get shot down a lot earlier. Got a Flakvierling here. Ooh, I didn't put it on AA mode. Let's see how it shoots, how fast it gets shot down now. Oops. So it looks like the Flakvierling targeted one of the planes that didn't go on the loiter mission, which can happen, which is why this sometimes took so long to shoot down. And this one does still provide vision around the plane, unlike a lot of other loiters, as well as around the target. So it did give a lot of vision. A lot of other planes had that functionality stripped away from it a few patches ago, but it's kind of integral to how this ability worked because, you know, during that first phase when all the planes sweep through and they provide vision until they start their loiter, that's kind of how they have vision. But yeah, definitely was due a nerf this ability because it was just so strong and so spammable. The Firefly has had its frontal armor nerfed. Used to be 185, now it's down to 160. Comparing that to a regular US Sherman, which has 195 frontal armor, you know, it's a pretty big reduction. And the main difference this makes is that the Panzer IV at mid-range, I think it's got 170 penetration. So now it's guaranteed to penetrate the Firefly at mid-range, or maybe a little bit closer than mid-range. So it makes it a lot easier to counter the Firefly with a regular medium tank. In my previous video, I did already mention how direct fire weapons, including anti-tank rifles, are going to be worse against units in heavy cover. And this obviously affects Polish Lancers a lot because they start with 2 AT rifles, them in Panzerjagers. So I wanted to do a bit of a head-to-head matchup between some scoped rifle Jaegers and a Lancer, both in heavy cover. Let's see how it goes. Because, yeah, not only are the AT rifles likely to be worse against units in cover this patch, or heavy cover, but LMGs also got made worse against units in cover too, so kind of getting the double whammy on Polish Lancers, even though, you know, there's nothing specifically mentioned in the patch notes. Okay, this guy's down to just boys now. The Bren's gone. That guy's still Brennan. This guy's still Brennan. But it seems like this squad is now taking far, far less damage. So definitely a bit of RNG depending on what model remains at the end. Is it the Bren or is it the AT rifle? Moving on to the DAK changes now, and we're starting out in the Armory because there's a new upgrade here. called Improved Base Logistics. This replaces the infantry repair speed buff, and it gives your buildings some new attributes. The light support company, that's your first tech structure, it can now heal nearby infantry, same healing rate as what like the med truck has. And Panzer Army Command is your final tech structure that can repair nearby vehicles, 6 health per second, which is a little bit slower than the default rate for a Panzer Pioneer. So let's tick this and see what happens.
Your research has been carried out.
So yeah, that's aura repairs on this, which makes it a lot stronger. I thought it might just be like one batch of repaired drones, but aura repairs, and a pretty big radius on that too. And that's the radius on the healing. So if you're like me and you usually put your light support company right on the edge of your base, might not be the best thing to do anymore because it might be too far away from your retreat point, so you're probably going to have to place it a little bit more defensively. Still probably towards the X of your base so you can heal as you run out of your base, but you do want this aura to cover the retreat collection point. But yeah, there's an exciting new option here because basically nobody was going for the repair upgrade. More changes in the armory. Veteran squad leaders and bolstered panzer grenadiers have swapped positions, and veteran squad leaders no longer provides a damage reduction to your infantry after upgrading. So it's a pretty big nerf to it there. So you can, get this kicking in earlier, maybe start climbing vet a bit faster. But if we compare it to like Wehrmacht officers' quarters, it doesn't cost fuel, similar amount of manpower. This can apply to all your infantry from all tech structures, whereas that usually only applies to one. But then, in the late game, maybe you have to rebuild a squad. You miss out on that power spike of like instant vet 1. So it doesn't immediately jump off the page as like an excellent upgrade to me. Meanwhile, for bolstered panzer grenadiers, seems maybe a little bit on the weak side. We'll see later on that DAK panzer grenadiers are also getting a bit of a nerf in this patch. But if you remember in the previous era, this similar upgrade used to give Panzer Grenadiers 1 extra model and every other squad 10% damage reduction. Makes me wonder if we might need to have a return of that for all non-Panzer Grenadier squads because it's up against some stiff competition in this tier. Emergency repair kits were still pretty much probably like 85% chosen, or maybe not actually because of how strong Palmgren blobs were in the previous patch. But, previous to that was the hot selection, but might not be as needed anymore now that you can use improved base logistics. Might free you up to use some other upgrades. Another big change to DAK is on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll see that there are now 5 call-ins that you can get at the start of the game, or at the 6-minute mark at least. So we've got a new one over here, Panzer Pioneer call-in for 250 manpower. Comparing that to the regular Panzer Pioneer cost, only 50 manpower premium to get an extra 250, so that could be interesting. We've got another new one here for the machine gun call-in, 275 manpower. It's usually 240, so again, another pretty good deal. But no more Panzerjager call-in, that is gone. Like I said, basically everybody was going for the Panzerjager call-in the majority of the time. And we're trying to shake things up a bit, and this is certainly going to shake things up because now you're probably going to have to manually build a Panzerjager earlier and chuck it into your 250 and do that manually instead of just building lots of other units and then stalling out for the 6 minutes, calling this in as soon as it ticks over. So yeah, it's certainly going to shake things up, especially because I don't think that any of these call-ins are really that impactful straight away, such that you really want to call them in. Usually you don't need another Panzer Pio. Assault Greens haven't been that strong the last couple of patches since Assault Disembark changes. And then the machine gun might be better this patch after the suppression changes, but usually not the style of gameplay DAK likes to engage in. So I could imagine most players probably going to be taking fire support elements and then going for one of the team weapon call-ins. Instead, Palm Grenadiers have had the moving accuracy on their rifles nerfed. So they used to be 75% accurate when firing on the move. Now it's only 60%. So you can see it's a pretty noticeable drop-off in DPS. Basically, like I said, they were too good at run and gun chase downs because they get the speed buff from combined arms, which allowed them to keep pace with the retreating unit for a lot longer. And then because their DPS drop off isn't that sharp, they're too good at securing squad wipes. And I completely agree. And I thought we might actually see some other squads in this patch who have 75% accurate rifles also receive maybe similar nerfs, but not yet at least. The Vet 1 ability of the med truck has been nerfed. Now its radius has been reduced to be the same as the healing radius that also got nerfed in this patch, and the duration has been reduced by 15 seconds as well. Panzerjagers have had a change to their Vet 1 ambush bonus. They used to get the same as every other camouflage squad, which is damage and accuracy, but they don't really need accuracy shooting at vehicles because they're already 100% chance to hit every vehicle in the game, so that was a little bit wasted for them. So now instead they're getting plus 40% penetration, so that will help them against medium tanks and heavier. But it will nerf the anti-infantry performance by a bit, so that's something to consider. The Flakvierling has come down in manpower by 20 because it's going to get a lot worse in this patch with the change in interaction between cover and direct fire weapons. The Stug D has been buffed. Apparently now it won't shoot its projectiles quite so high into the air, so they should land on the target earlier, and it's had a slight AoE improvement as well. So let's see how it goes against this rifleman. Don't really notice it too much there at max range. They also changed the Vet 1. Now the rate of fire debuff that it applies has been massively reduced. Used to be 50%, that's only 25%. Still not super fast. I feel like I can notice it more on this, on the longer range shot. The lower trajectory. I want to check if the lower trajectory is going to cause the Stug D's projectile to collide into things like walls now, so let's have a look. Seems to get over the top pretty smoothly. It is mounted quite high on the gun, so maybe that helps it out. Let's try a little bit further away. Over two walls. No, it seems to get over the top of these ones fine. Easy on that mode. How about over the top of these tank traps? They're a bit higher. Seems like it's adjusting its firing to get over the top of them, right? Seems to go higher when it needs to get above the obstacle, lower when there's nothing in the way. So yeah, it's adjusting as it needs to. Similar to other artillery pieces, the Cannone has had its ability recharge bonuses stripped off Vet 1 and Vet 2 and replaced with bonuses that are just worse overall. But this did remind me that I didn't see anything noted in the patch notes about the howitzer replacements, and they still do have ability recharge at Vet 1 and Vet 2, so was that an oversight by Relic? Guastatori have had the moving accuracy on their submachine guns increased from 75% up to 85%. And there are other squads that have 85% moving accuracy on their submachine guns, so it's not too unusual. I guess Relic did this because they nerfed the moving performance of their flamethrowers in the previous patch. I haven't played with Guastatori since that flamethrower nerf, so I can't comment on whether this was needed or not. The Panzer IIIN short barrel that you get from Elite Forces has had its veterancy reworked. And it used to have the exact same veterancy as the Panzer IIIL, the regular Panzer III, which is a problem because there are a lot of bonuses that don't really apply to the lobber style projectile that's mainly shooting at infantry. Things like main gun accuracy, it's a scatter based weapon, so that doesn't help it. Weapon penetration is mainly shooting at infantry, so that was no good. So yeah, now it's got rotation rate at Vet 1 instead of Vet 2. And then at Vet 2 it's got rate of fire and scatter. And in Vet 3 it gets a second rate of fire bonus, so it should be firing really fast now at Vet 3. But they did keep weapon penetration at Vet 4 for some reason. A little bit confusing. So let's test this out now. Vet 3 versus Vet 3 up against the recently buffed Stug D. Obviously this can fire quite a lot further, so it has some other advantages, but let's just see how it goes. Wow, that is fast. That is really fast. Oh, okay. I might actually use this thing now. I do have a bit of a problem with the side skirts upgrade in this battle group because, you know, once you've bought it on 3 different vehicles, now you're just paying way more than Wehrmacht have to unlock it for all of their tanks permanently. And it just feels really bad having to do that. So maybe Relic could introduce some kind of system where once you upgrade it 3 times, permanently unlocks on everything, or maybe there's like a global upgrade you can get kind of similar to Panzerfaust rollout, where you just buy it over here and then equips to all of your vehicles. That might be the better way to go. Because one of the other problems is if you upgrade this, the vehicle dies and then you recover it, the recovered version doesn't have the skirts anymore. And so it just really stinks after recovering it, have to pay for the skirts again. Just, yeah, really painful for a recovery faction. Kriegsmariners have come down in cost to call in by 15 manpower, and their reinforcement cost has come down by 2 per model as well. But their STGs now cost 10 munitions more to upgrade. Didn't see a lot of Kriegsmariners in the previous patch. I played with them quite a lot myself, but in 1v1s, you really feel the lack of snares. So maybe you could get 1, but 2 was usually overkill. But yeah, we're seeing quite a lot of squads with low model counts in this kind of formation get buffed in this patch, so Kriegsmariners getting the same treatment. For the Walking Stuka's veterancy changes, its ability recharge at Vet 2 got shifted down to Vet 3, and its big rate of fire buff at Vet 3 kind of got split now between Vet 2 and Vet 3. For the butterfly bombs, you can now shoot at them as they fall from the sky, same as paradrop infantry, and that means upon landing, they will arm faster. So let's see how it looks like. We've got 2 rifleman squads here shooting at them. How many are going to die? Alright, I mean, I think that's pretty much half of them survived, 2 riflemen. On to battlefield espionage now. Even though this wasn't a very popular battle group for DAK in the previous patch, it was actually their best performing battle group. So a couple of changes here to transfer depots. Now the cost to transfer has gone up. Used to be 80 munitions, now it's 100, and 10 more fuel to get the 200 manpower. So it definitely was too strong, especially on the munitions side. And the Goliath has had its sight radius reduced massively from the regular 35 down to just 15. So it's going to be quite a lot harder to send it on independent missions without a spotting unit. Thought they might do a little bit more to the Goliath, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the most important bug fixes now, and the first one we're looking at is apparently they improve performance with high polling rate mice. So my mouse only goes up to 1000 Hz, but at that polling rate in the previous patch, I was getting some extra stutters while using it, so I did actually end up dropping down to 500 Hz, and I actually recommended you maybe do the same in my settings guide video. But let's see how it goes now. I do have a frame cap on it, my monitor's refresh rate as well, so let's just see if we get any stutters as we're going around. I mean, you do see my lows getting a bit low sometimes, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting like those big hitches. Okay, so that's with 1000 Hz. Now here we are on 500 Hz. Is there any difference? Doesn't really seem to be, as far as I can tell. Maybe some of you guys who've got like 2K or 8K polling could let me know if you guys notice any difference. They say they fixed anti-tank gun weapon formations, and I think the 17-pound was kind of the worst offender. There was always one guy standing miles away when it's set up. So let's just give it like the best case scenario. Push everybody miles away. These guys are super far off, and then we'll set it up. So yeah, historically, maybe 1 or 2 models would stand miles away from the gun, but you saw they kind of ran from their faraway positions even after getting pushed intentionally further away. And now they are, you know, just this is their formation now, I guess.
Ready for trouble.
Cool. They've reduced the amount of light cover craters certain weapons create, so let's see how this goes. So looking at the bulldozer, I think the bulldozer used to be able to go like 7 across, now it's only 5. Looks like the whiz-bang is still 7 across though. There's a slightly wider kind of area on its explosion, right? But the bulldozer is also the same as the Brumbier, so yeah, a little bit less yellow cover from some of these explosions, which I think is good, and one of the things I suggested in my video about negative cover. The Siege Camp's aura was bugged on quite a few units, but apparently that's fixed now, and the LG40 is using the right voice lines. I think before, when it died, it said, "You've lost an obiche." Let's see what it does now. Nothing. Okay. The British SSB sniper used to have a problem where it would get stuck lying down like this, so be like crawling around really slowly and it would end up getting killed. You could cancel it by hitting stop and then moving again, but that means you'd have to notice it crawling around, and maybe sometimes you wouldn't notice. They say that it was rare, but it happened all the time, such to the point that I stopped using the sniper completely, but I'll definitely be trying it out again after this change. And there was also a thing with the LRDG. If you recovered this, maybe you're a DAK player, who would end up getting just a regular CMP truck, not this CWT, but that has been fixed now, so you DAK players might be able to enjoy some of this. They say they fixed the animation on the Piet, so let's see how it looks. So I guess maybe before, when it was like reloading or whatever, it looked more like a bolt action animation rather than how this is. But we did see a bit of a problem in my previous video, because people were telling me in the comments, I noticed that this has a trail behind it now of fire and then big puff of smoke over here, but apparently the Piet is spring loaded, so maybe there's been a mistake made there. So is the Palmgren's reign of terror finally over? Well, it's certainly going to be quite a lot weaker because of the armory changes especially, and their moving accuracy change. But the scope rifle package didn't really get touched, so that could still be quite a strong option. And at the end of the day, it's still DAK's mainline squad, so you're probably going to still see them, maybe not in big blobs so much anymore though, because you do need those stairs. And DAK's infantry options, maybe not that good, because I'm not predicting the assault green to be that strong in this patch either. Meanwhile, I'm really excited to try out that new tier 1 upgrade in the armory that gives you healing and repairs from your buildings, but I do have some misgivings because they say that they're going to address vehicle blobbing in the next patch, and I think one of the main things that facilitates vehicle blobbing is aura repairs, which you're going to get that from the Panzer Army command with that new upgrade. I think there's just too many vehicle aura repairs. Obviously, the US one kind of got locked behind Tank Depot, so that comes online later now. But yeah, between the repair bunker, the US Mechanized Support Center, this new one for DAK, Brits, I suppose they've only got it on the heavy armored battle group, but you know, also individual auto repairs on a lot of vehicles like DAK has, or maybe the Stuart has. I think those kind of repairs, when you don't need to tie up a unit specifically to repair the vehicle, does encourage you to use them in blobs, because then, you know, obviously you've got the full might of your armored force driving around together, so you can do massive damage, but then you're not spending heaps of time waiting for repairs out of the back anymore. So maybe that's something Relic can look at for the next patch, because yeah, I think that is one of the big problems. Too many aura repairs, and it just makes it so easy in team games as well. Like one guy gets aura repairs and then everybody just moves their vehicles over there. And it's not like in Code 2 where you could maybe bomb that area and the repair guys would die, and then slowly they'd respawn over time. And until they were fully respawned, the repair rates would be nerfed. There's like no counterplay. It's like, okay, is the point captured for the US one, or does the bunker get killed? Otherwise, things are largely unaffected. So maybe that's something Relic could look into for the next one. A huge thank you to all of my Patreon backers who make creating coverage like this possible.